The opinions and views expressed in the following program are those of the speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? But can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
And hello, everybody. Anthony Hartwig with you with another episode of Running Point on ysnlive.com. Brought to you, as always, by our good friends in Scotty's Box over there, top right-hand corner, Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. They go the extra mile for you, so you don't have to. As always, it's a Wednesday, which means it's Wrestling Wednesday with our good friend down there in the bottom box, Gary Altizer. Gary, thanks for coming on. And Scotty, how we doing today?
I'm good, ready to go today. A lot of energy, so
We're
good.
ready. You're ready. Gary's ready. We're all good to go. Wrestling Wednesday. This is episode 7, 6, 7. I've lost count. How sad is that? I think it's 7. I think it's 7. It's definitely 7. Now, yep. I'm putting my all the chips in the pile. It's 7. Episode 7 of Wrestling Wednesday. Gary, like we always say, after the New Year's, wrestling gets into full force. We have a lot to recap and a lot of things to talk about from what went on in the week prior. What were some of your big takeaways?
As usual this time of year, that everything is in full go mode right now. Unfortunately, you're also seeing some injuries pile up from some teams. There's some guys out. But as far as healthy guys and teams go, teams are ready right now. Teams are hitting everything where they wanted to, and you're starting to see the cream rise to the top, team-wise and individual-wise.
And one of the things, one of the first results I got, and I want to thank Austintown Fitch for always sending us results. They were able to beat Louisville between the last time we talked, which is a really good wrestling team down there in Louisville. Everyone knows that. So anytime you get a win over the Leopards, it's good things happening. 39-27 was the final. Marquis Stancorp continues to have a really good season. He got a win. Here are the other winners for the Falcons: Chase Kimball, Braden Sovereigns, Evan Protopapa, hope I'm saying that right, Louis Deloach, Stephen Pointius, Devin Phillips, and then Cameron Natali also getting a win for the Falcons. 12-0 on the season so far for Austintown Fitch.
That's a good team there. I mean, that's no surprise at all. That's a big school, and Louisville has been really, really good the last few years. So I'm sure that's a pretty good team win for Coach Bird, and one that his team's probably going to build on as the season goes along.
I mean, 39-27. That's closer, and especially when you have all those winners. That means Louisville was able to get points here and there from other things.
Well, 39-27, that's a 12-point difference. That's really only one match.
Right.
If you were to take 6 points off of Fitch, give 6 points to Louisville, that's a pin. If one pin goes the other direction, you got a tie match, and then it comes down to tiebreaker. So 12 points in wrestling is not that big when it comes to a duel.
That's why I wanted to point out, like a lot of people in every other sport see 12-point differential and think, wow, that's pretty decisive. But in wrestling, like you said, 12 points can be one thing swinging the other way, and all of a sudden that 12 point goes away. So 12 points is actually a really impressive close victory for Austintown Fitch. And like I said, they're just having a really good season so far. They're undefeated in their duels. They're 12-0, and I think they're led. I think the name we keep seeing popping up is that Marquis Stancorp. he keeps having a tremendous campaign.
Yeah, he had a great season last year. I think he was just one match away from placing at the state tournament. I know he's predicted to place this year, coming into that Austintown Fitch team. He's probably the leader on that team, I would imagine, the guy that everybody looks up to. He's a big kid. I believe he wrestles 215, and he's probably going to be one that will be focused on come the end of February when sectionals start, into the district and state tournament. I know that Coach Bird's probably got really high hopes for him.
Wrestling on the network over the weekend, Jackson Milton Invitational was on the network with Chris Colucci on the call. Gary, what kind of things went down in Jackson Milton, and what were your takeaways from that weekend?
A lot of really good matches, a lot of close matches. I'm not sure if it was the second round of championships, I believe. That round took forever, and when you get a championship round that takes forever, that means you've got a lot of matches that are going all three periods. You got a lot of close matches, and you got a lot of good wrestling going on, and that's exactly what happened. If you see a round fly by, that's because there's a lot of pins and the competition levels aren't really close. But in that second, I believe it was the second round of championships, the round took forever. I mean, I kept looking at my watch saying, are we still in this same round? And when that happens, you got some good wrestling going on, and that's exactly what we saw.
Yeah, and I know Chris was only there for the finals, but what a long day at Jackson Milton. I had I think my brother went down there to watch some kids that go to our church in the youth program, but like he went there at 9 a.m. and I think the finals started around like 3:30 or 4. So, Gary, you've said it a lot of times. We don't have to reiterate it, but wrestling was Saturdays, long days.
Absolutely. Yeah, we had to, we're an hour away, and weigh-ins went from 7 to 8 a.m., and you're on a school bus. It takes even longer. So we had to leave at 6:45 in the morning. So, that's when our day starts. I don't care what anybody says. This kids still have to wake up, and they still have to get a ride to the wrestling room for us to check our weights, to make sure we got our headgears and our shoes, to get anything we need out of the locker rooms, to head on to the bus and go. So if your kids are getting there around 6:30 a.m., if finals start at 4, you're probably not getting out of there, especially if you have a heavyweight wrestling. You're not getting out of there till 7, not getting home until 8. So there's a 13.5-hour day for a kid who has a million other things to worry about, school, any other extracurriculars that they're in. Of course, we talk about this all the time, their weight, and then wrestling on top of all of that. So it's a long day, it's a grind, and we talk about this all the time. That's what makes this sport great, is it turns young people into adults pretty quick.
Boardman went to the Revere duels over the weekend. They finished 5th. 4-1 placements from 2 of their wrestlers over the weekend in those Revere duels. Max Schwitka and Quinn Swavel both finished 4-1 on the day, so Boardman continues their season. A tough duel at Revere. I mean, when Boardman finishes 5th out of 5 teams, because we know how good Boardman actually is. So Revere has a really good wrestling team. I know you know that, Gary. They're not a YSN school, but Revere, obviously hosting, they have a good wrestling program, and they brought in a lot of good teams into that weekend. So Boardman, a couple of wrestlers have really good weekends, but when you're up against really tough teams, sometimes you're gonna have a day where as a team you don't finish the way you want to.
Yeah, and another thing, I don't know if we talk about this enough with duels. You can have first off, you got to have all as many weight classes filled as possible. We talk about that, but if you head to a dual tournament where, okay, my best guys are these, let's say these 4 or 5 weights, but then you also have another team who has their best guys at those weights, but they're just a little bit better than you guys, then you can have a way worse weekend than you would if you were somewhere else. So it's really all about the matchups in a dual tournament. First off, do you have the kids to fill out the weight classes? And if you do, okay, how are we matching up with other teams at these weights where we know that, we should be winning matches? If your best guys aren't able to win matches, then you've got to have the other guys come through for you. It's literally the most, in a high school sport, I don't know how there is more of a team aspect as far as winning or losing than what happens in a wrestling match, because there are 14 weights. There's no other high school sport where you have to fill that many weight classes there or that many positions. Football, basketball,
Right.
baseball, I don't care what it is. You don't have to fill 14. You got to have 14 in there. And then again, if your few guys aren't as good as the other guys' best guys, you got to
Just
have
to,
the other ones come through for it.
just to compare, I mean, imagine if you told the baseball or maybe a football coach like, hey, you have to play this game without your linebackers because they didn't like, hey, you're gonna be you're going into a situation with your hands behind your back a little bit. So Boardman, once again, they had really good performances from a couple of their wrestlers, couple of 4-1 finishes, but like you said, sometimes that doesn't really define how good a team is or how good wrestlers are if they finish in a not great spot in a dual tournament. We've talked a lot about Hubbard. They had a good weekend. They went to the Lakeside duels and they had a runner-up finish. They were able to beat Northwestern PA 52-27. They beat Edison 36-31. They were able to beat Harvey 42-30. They beat Hawken 43-15. And then they fell to St. Ed's 48-30. So Hubbard, I mean, when the only team you lose to is St. Ed's, not a bad weekend at all.
No, and they're racking up the dual wins there. So if they won 1, 2, 3, 4, if they went 4-1 there, their records got to be up there about 15-1 or so. I haven't heard of any other losses for them. They won that Laker Shaker, they won the NE8 duels, and they went 4-1 here. I mean, you're talking, what is that, 12, minimum of 12-1 right now. Those guys are flying high. They've got to be feeling good about themselves. Their coaches got to be feeling great about the team and what it's doing. And you continue to win like this, you're going to build confidence, not only in the team as a whole, but the individual, the kids themselves. Okay, now we've been winning a lot. I could carry a little bit of confidence in here. I can be more confident maybe I've been in the past because you know what? We've won and we've been winning. So there's no reason we can't continue to win.
It's going to be a really fun weekend. Hubbard goes down to Austintown Fitch on Saturday. It's going to be a lot of good wrestlers in one space.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one to watch for sure. I can imagine that's a big duel for both of those guys. And I wonder when the last time was that they wrestled or if they have in the past and what the record is there, for either team. That'd be an interesting one to dive deep into.
Some wrestling on the schedule tonight to preview Gary Beaver Local, another duel against Louisville. We just talked about how good Louisville is when in their match against Austintown Fitch last weekend. They go to Beaver Local. Beaver Local has just been putting themselves through a gauntlet of a schedule. So they're testing themselves again tonight against Louisville. You have Waterloo and Malvern both at Southern tonight. I know you're familiar with probably all three of those programs. What kind of things do you expect in Southern between Malvern, Waterloo, and the Indians?
Waterloo's got a really, really good lineup of lighter weights from 106 to about 150 or so. They've got a good set of kids. They don't have much after that as far as the heavier weights go lineup wise. Malvern's got a pretty solid team top to bottom, and they might only forfeit a couple weight classes, and that's the same as Southern Local. They have a pretty solid team top to bottom. They don't fill the 106-pound weight class. They don't fill 120 or 126, but I do believe they fill every other weight class. So they're filling 11 of the 14 total. That will probably be a really good one, Malvern and Southern. And Waterloo, I just don't know if they've got enough bodies to go around to be able to compete with these guys' 14 weight classes. But in the weight classes they do have filled, they'll definitely compete. That'll be a fun try to see and to see how these teams do. Because they're pretty evenly matched as far as when you get weight classes with guys that are there.
Another interesting try tonight, Gary. We have Western Reserve and United both going to Salem. What do you think about this one?
Salem's killing it, man. They won that Jackson Milton tournament. See, I have the team scores here. I don't believe it was really even that close. No, they won by 89.5 points over Girard to win that as a team. It's going to be a tall task for Western Reserve or United to come away with that win. Salem's got 2 or 3 guys for each weight class, and they really got some talent and some young talent on that team. So I know United last year, I think that was a really, really close duel. I think they just barely lost to them, if I'm remembering right. Maybe they won, but for this year, I think it will be a tall task for either one of those teams to be able to come out with a win against Salem.
when we venture towards the weekend on Saturday, the one that we have on our spreadsheet, the Top Gun Invitational. What can you tell us about that on Saturday?
The Top Gun, man, that's a tough tournament, a really, really big tournament. At one time, it was one of the tougher tournaments in the country. It might still be. If you're going to the Top Gun, then you're a top level wrestler. You're wanting to get top level competition. And there's no doubt in my mind that there'll be some really good wrestlers there that will be making some noise in Columbus over the weekend. This weekend, if we're to see some local guys here locally come out on the podium there, they have to be guys that we as a YSN team have to start paying attention to if we haven't already.
Flying into the danger zone, I think, is a good representation of Top Gun, the Top Gun
Yeah.
Invitational. We already talked about Hubbard going to Austin Town Fitch on Saturday as well. That should be a fun one. Gary, is there anything else on your radar for the weekend that you're looking at?
No, I think we covered it all. This is a little bit lighter weekend. For whatever reason, that second weekend in January always seems to be, but the ones that you covered are the big ones that we definitely need to keep an eye out for. And then next weekend, at least for us, we'll be in Wheeling Civic Center there for that big OVAC tournament. And then obviously we have the EOWL tournament coming up too. So we got some big ones coming up after this for sure.
Gary, I think it's we talked about Wellsville at the episode 1 to give you your coach's corner kind of segment that we do with a lot of coaches. Why don't you give us kind of a mid-season January kind of recap on how your squad is doing and talk up your boys a little bit?
Well, we have been hit with some very, very bad luck. I only had 4 healthy kids this weekend. I have a broken foot, a broken hand, a torn shoulder. I had 2 kids that were very, very sick. They caught some real bad bug. One of them even was in the hospital. I've got 3 others that can't wrestle until the end of the month for various other reasons. So, when you have a small school and I've got a roster of 12 and I have 8 of them that are gone for various reasons, it's been tough sledding. But by the end of the month, I'm hoping to be at full strength, which is, if I had to choose when to be healthy and when to have my full team, it'd be the last month of the season. So I'm hoping and praying to get those guys back. My best wrestler, Ty Rambo, he's been out all year with a Liz Frank injury from football season, and he just got his the metal removed out of his foot. He's healed up great. We're really hoping and praying at his next doctor's visit that will be the last one and he'll be released from there. And then the other guys that I have hurt, I'm hoping to have them all back and healthy by the last tournament in January.
Brings up a couple of questions. First, when you have the 4 guys healthy and you want to give them attention, obviously, and try to get as much as you can out of those 4 guys that you do have healthy, like you said this weekend, what do you do as a coach to kind of keep them engaged? Obviously, they know as well as you do that it's a tight spot, that there's just as much bad luck. The kids aren't they're not blind to that. I'm sure they understand that there's a tough situation just as much as you do as the coach. So how do you kind of try to keep them like mentally engaged and motivated and just push through this tough situation with the guys that you do have healthy right now?
Well, most of those guys that are healthy are either first-year kids or freshmen, so they're getting valuable mat time that they needed, which is what we needed to happen, and they're getting extra time from us as coaches because these guys that are hurt and sick, they can't practice. When you have broken bones, you can't practice, and when you're so sick that you can't go to school and you have to go to the hospital, you're obviously not there. So this extra time that they're getting a lot more one-on-one time with the coaches that we have. So they're really starting to pick up things fast. I can't be more proud of the effort that my kids have given this season. I'm not sure that I've ever had a group of kids who have gone as hard and given 100% as much as these guys have. They really, really, really taken the wrestling attitude by the horns, being first year kids, just going out there and doing everything that they can and giving 100% the whole time. We're still making first year kid mistakes, but we're not losing for a lack of effort. And I will sleep good every single night, even if we're not winning matches, if I know that my kids are going out there and they're losing because of inexperience, but not because of effort. Everybody that coaches in this sport, the main thing that they want is the kids to go out there and give everything they've got. They're doing that. We're trying to give them the extra attention and get them caught up on things that they just don't know yet because they haven't been on the mat enough.
Then something I don't think is talked about enough, really, from a coaching perspective. When you have guys that are injured, whether it be serious injuries, like you said, out for the whole season, or that have been out for the whole season, or little illnesses that keep you out for a couple of weeks, whatever is keeping you off the mat, off the court, off the field, whatever sport you're playing. That's a mental strain on these guys. Like, they want to be out there so bad. They've put so much time into this sport. As a coach, what kind of things do you do to try to help their mental health a little bit and try to keep them engaged, try to keep them kind of as involved as they possibly can be? Obviously, physical limitations if you're injured, and if you're sick, you can't come to practice, but still giving them, things to look forward to, or whatever it may be. What do you do for the student athletes that are going through things like that as a coach?
Well, so like things like if you have a broken hand, you can obviously, do things to keep yourself in shape. You could run, lift with your legs, things like that, whatever the doctor releases you to do. So we encourage the kids to do that. And if they can we want the kids, if you can be at practice, come to practice. And then, if you can't wrestle, you can watch, you can learn, you can ask questions, you can run with us, you can do the cardio type things, you can do whatever your body or your doctor allows you to do. We want to keep them engaged with the team. We don't want them staying at home and missing practice and not showing up, say, oh, well, I can't wrestle, so why do I need to be there? You need to be there because you're a part of the team. You can learn, and that still keeps that team camaraderie going. And those guys always end up being the biggest cheerleaders and really good for the other guys that are healthy, because they're able to give their focus to those guys too. So we just got to keep it in their ear. Hey, you've got X amount of days left. Let's keep doing what you're doing to keep your wind up and yourself in shape, and just keep your eyes on that date that you can come back, because in the grand scheme of things, that date will come and go. And in a year or two, when you're a junior or a senior, you're not even going to remember this 6 weeks you had to take off as a freshman.
Scotty, I don't want to keep you out of the conversation. I know me and Gary kind of got lost in the preview and the recap of wrestling that's happened and going to happen. But Scotty, what kind of things are you thinking about wrestling this week, and what's on your mind that you want to share with Gary?
Yeah, sure. So I was just wondering, Gary, you talked about the challenges and how you only have 4 guys right now, and you talked about the effort and how even if you guys aren't winning matches, you could sleep well at night because of the effort they're giving. Um, Aside from the effort in giving it their all, is there things that you think adjustments you think could be made right now to make you guys better, or do you think it's more just you're kind of in wait and see mode now, and when you get your horses back, then you could really start implementing adjustments?
Oh no, you can implement adjustments every single week. I mean, with every kid, especially the newer ones, you can pick up little things that they're doing or not doing that cost them points or maybe cost them the match. We do that every week. We see things that they're doing or they're not doing, just little things. They're not hitting a move exactly right. They're not getting their body in a certain position. They're not getting their hips in a certain position. I just had a kid who was asking me about a move that he'd hit twice. He did it about 90% right, but that last 10%, he didn't get it right because he didn't have his hips in the right spot. So we had to go over where to put his hips when he hit that move, and how he could have won one of the matches at least a couple different times had he done this little thing different. You have to do that every single week, especially with the new kids. You've got to pick up on the little things that they're not doing wrong and correct it, so they just don't keep it going. When the other kids get healthy, I'm going to have more bodies going around, more people to work in with them and help them as far as their drilling partners go. But no, you as far as I'm concerned, you don't wait at all. That Monday, you're working on things and mistakes you made on Saturday.
All right, Gary, before we end the segment, I want to give you the time to plug your show that you have on YSN every week, and Cherry Pickers heading into the postseason. And I know you're talking sports betting. It is now legal in Ohio. Woo! So we're allowed to have a show dedicated to kind of sports betting, and you do a great job with that. What's on tap this week as we head into the postseason of the NFL?
Yeah, we're heading into the wild card weekend. The Cherry Pickers are on every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. on YSN. We go live on Facebook, YouTube, on the YSN page. We're there. Yes, we go over football betting, particularly, is what we go into. We always have what we call system picks, which is just this little system that I put together that predicts games and who to take against the spread that weekend. We always have best bets and teasers that we give out. We did talk about the college football playoffs and whatnot. We'll be discussing and we'll be recapping that championship game. And we're going to go through all the way to the Super Bowl. And then hopefully in the spring, when that spring football league starts, which is the UFL, we're going to go into that as well. And who knows, we might branch out into other sports. But now that the gambling in Ohio is legal, just like it is to buy a lottery ticket, there's a market out there for it. And there's people that want to hear about this kind of stuff. We're going to keep talking about it.
I'm not your producer or anything, but when March Madness comes around, I think that's a sweet spot right there. Because
that might be one I have to look into. Yeah,
a lot of money gets made on March Madness.
Absolutely,
and I think that's probably the one sports outside of the Super Bowl. That's probably the one sports event that brings like sports fans and non-sports fans together, because everyone fills out a bracket. It feels like, whether you know about basketball or not, your office poll, or there's a bunch of people that just fill out brackets that probably never watched a single game of college basketball that season. They end up winning half the time, but hey,
right.
what to do? But that'd probably be a perfect cherry pickers, a couple weeks for March Madness.
Yeah, absolutely. We're open to anything. The middle of March wrestling season ends, so my time is opened up more. So we'll do whatever the people want to see. We'll do it for sure. With the Steelers making the playoffs, the Browns making the playoffs, I'm hoping that we'll have a lot of people that'll tune in, because they're both going to want to see, how those teams are looking as far as our system picks go. And with the one matchup being on a Saturday, we're hoping to be able to get up, an episode right before the games on Saturday afternoon. Hopefully around 4:00 is what I'm shooting for, if I can get home from my tournament in time.
Yeah, because when you go live on Sunday, you'll already know the results of the Browns.
Right.
They play at 4 on Saturday, and my Chiefs play right after them, exclusively on Peacock. There you go. There's your plug, Peacock, right there. You got it on Ysn. Free publicity. We'll give it out. We don't give it out too often. We're not going to make a habit of that, but I'll give them a plug. We're going to take a break. That was Wrestling Wednesday episode 7. I can't believe we're at 7 already. 7 weeks into wrestling season. We recapped the week that was. We previewed the weekend coming up. We have a lot of good wrestling, even though it's a slower weekend than most. Top Gun, that's awesome. We have a duel at Austintown Fitch between Hubbard and Fitch. Both those teams off to a great start. Austintown Fitch is 12-0 in duels. Hubbard, they lost a 1 over the weekend, runner-up, and the 1 was to St. Ed's. I think that's a pretty respectable loss over the last weekend. So that should be fun as well. When we come back next week, we'll recap that. We'll preview the week that is coming up the week after, and we'll have some fun next week on Wrestling Wednesday. Stick around on this show. We're going to recap the basketball last night. We had a bunch of good scores come in, and then we'll also preview the night that's coming up on Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
21 News delivers the news as it happens, using the latest technology from where it happens.
Live here outside the Mahoney County.
On air, online,
Wednesday afternoon weather update.
Very dangerous.
and on the 21 News social media platforms.
I'm on the road right now.
21 News, the Valley's only locally owned source for trusted news since 1953.
Craftsmanship to us is 60 years of pride and dedication.
Passed down from generation to generation.
The hardwood floors that your kids take their first steps on.
The solid wood doors you quietly close at night.
The things we create day in and day out are the products that end up turning your house into a home.
At Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods, uncompromising quality and craftsmanship built our business.
And it will keep us moving forward for generations to come.
Going the extra mile at Greenwood Chevrolet means we want to take care of the community that takes care of us too.
And we have to work together always. And that's how you stay in business for 40 years.
You know, I love being a helper because when I help somebody, it makes me feel good.
It means a lot that I can make a difference in others' lives.
So I will do everything I can and just being there for them every step of the way.
I want them to know within the first 5 minutes that they could depend on me. That's what going the extra mile means, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Before the lights come on, before the workday begins, before a long day has ended, or it's time to have fun. It all starts with the people at Joe Dickey Electric. From replacing a light fixture in your home to building a substation for your business, no job is too big or too small. The people of Joe Dickey Electric power them all. Joe Dickey Electric, over 60 years of powering the Mahoning Valley.
And welcome back to Running Point on YSNLive.com. It is a Wednesday episode, and it is the second full week of January. We're proud to be with you. Brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet. They go the extra mile for you. We try to do the same here on this show every single day. Anthony Hartwig, Scotty Mincher to my right over there, and then Gary Altizer in the box below. With you like every Wednesday. Let's run into the scores from last night on the YSN scoreboard. On ysnlive.com/scores is where you can find it. This is always presented and brought to you by Burnett Pools, Spas, and Hot Tubs. As we go to the top, how about this? Struthers and Lakeview doing damage. Lakeview was, to this point, tied with Poland at the top of the NE8. Struthers had one loss, so the Wildcats needed this win bad, and they got it over Lakeview, 61-40. In the Fieldhouse. The Wildcats get a big win. This sets up a really big one between Struthers and Poland on Friday night as Struthers tries to bring Poland down a notch and to tie up that logjam in the NE8. I know teams like South Range and now Lakeview are going to be rooting for Struthers real loud on Friday night as they're both one game back of Poland. Beaver Local went to Martins Ferry and lost 77-63 in boys basketball. Tough one for Beavers on the road. Austintown Fitch gets their first AAC win of the season. They win over Boardman 46-36. Marcel Finkley has a really big game for the Falcons, and that's becoming a redundant theme for Austintown Fitch basketball. Cheney put up a heck of a fight against Akron St. Vincent St. Mary, but eventually fall in overtime 69-66. The Cowboys hit a buzzer beater in the end of regulation to send it into OT. But, St. Vincent St. Mary comes into Youngstown and does what the Irish usually do and win any way possible. So they win 69-66 in overtime over Cheney. Campbell Memorial gets a close win in the MVAC grade tier over Brookfield. Final score there, 53-47. We saw Howland take down Poland in non-conference play, 50-34. So the Bulldogs not only need to beat Struthers to keep first place in the 88, but they're also trying to come back from a pretty tough loss against the Tigers in the non-conference slate. West Branch wins the Battle of the Warriors in Beloit, 58-37 over Carrollton. Badger gets Coach Josh Upshire, a big friend of the show, big friend of YSN, career win at number 100. Earlier in the season, he already became the winningest coach in Badger basketball history, and now he makes it an even 100 with a 65-34 win over Chalker. So congratulations to Coach Upshire on that feat there for the Braves. We saw Crestview fall the champion by 4 points, 55-51. Big one for the Flashes on the road in the Rebel Dome. Columbiana beats East Palestine 61-46. Final score there. Ashtabula Lakeside falling to Geneva 71-42. Girard falls to Hubbard 52-46. The final score there inside the NE8. The rivalry down in Ashtabula County went to 2 overtimes. When we tell you this is serious in the 440, where we mean it, we mean business. Jefferson and Edgewood, they fought tooth and nail all night, but it is the Warriors that end up coming out on top, 77-72 over Jefferson, as the marathon ends in Edgewood in double overtime. LeBray gets the win over Liberty, 73-57. The final score there. Madison beats Conneaut, 79-43. Spartans fall. Salem, they were able to just barely not get past Marlington, 51-49. The Dukes get the close win over the Quakers. Wyndham falls to Matthews, 60-42. Final score there. McDonald falls to Waterloo, 61-52. Vikings get another win on the road. Very under the radar. Waterloo Vikings 6-3 on the season now. They're trying to make some waves in that MVAC Scarlet tier. Springfield gets an easy win over Middle Ridge, 57-22. Final score there. Newton Falls on the road gets the win over Garrettsville Garfield, 55-47. South Range makes quick work of Niles, 71-36. Luke Rowan, 7 3-pointers in this game. Second time this season he's hit 7 in a game, just one off that record of threes in a game. Trying, it's really hard to break it. He's gotten on the doorstep a couple of times already, and he'll have a couple of more chances for the Raiders this season. But he had 25, and the Raiders win 71-36. Western Reserve, they beat Sebring 70-41, the final score there for that one. We saw Latonia beat Southern Local for their third win of the season, 52-45, a big program turnaround season for Latonia, as they had 0 wins in 2 years and now 3 wins this year. So the Bears putting some things together. Lisbon was able to fight off United 47-39. United some pretty good defense because Lisbon is not held under 52 too often. In fact, I think it's the first time this year in league play, especially that Lisbon's been held under 50. But the Blue Devils defense up for the task, and they still get the win. Wellsville, big win over Valley Christian in overtime, 70-66. Gary, you were there. We'll have you talk about that game after the scores are completely updated. East Liverpool beats Steubenville 76-61. Jackson Milton falls to Lowville 62-46. We saw Cardinal Mooney beat Youngstown East 51-46 final score there. Heartland Christian gets the win over St. Thomas Aquinas 71-53. We saw Orange fall to Hawken 69-43. And then we saw Kirtland beat Grand Valley 64-53. In girls basketball, Beaver Local falls to Harrison Central 56-36, the final score there. So take a breath. That was a lot of games. 26 of them were on the network, and all the finals are in and updated. So let's talk about some of these games. First, Gary, you were at this overtime game between Wellsville and Valley Christian where the Tigers were able to win by 4. What did you see from Wellsville?
I've seen a great team game. They play very unselfish ball. They spread the ball around, and Tyrell Watkins is having a really monster season. He had 28 points and 20 rebounds last night. Whew. That's his second 20-plus rebound game of the season. He's averaging close to 20 points. He's probably in the 17 to 18 range. But he does not run that team. That team goes through who's ever hot that night. Elijah Douglas and Richie Dowling both came through with huge plays in the third and fourth quarter. They were making shots like crazy. They were hitting threes. Valley Christian, man, talk about an athletic and fast team, but also a team that can hit from the outside. They really don't have any holes. They press the whole game, and they'll run. What got Wellsville through was the second half shooting, and they did very well from the free throw line. They just continue to get better. Most of these guys have never played varsity before, and these guys have never played together as a bunch. Richie Dowling, he's averaging 13 points a game. He hasn't never played high school basketball before, so I think Coach Scott's doing a great job.
Can't say Watkins' name enough. He needs to be talked about more. He's putting up numbers that are just almost video game-esque. You said 28 and 20?
28 and 20, and he had last week, he had 21 and 23 in a game. So, yeah. You got to put him
on. Fair to say he's averaging a double-double probably.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of 3 overtime games last night is something in the water at YSN is Cheney and St. V's went to overtime. Obviously, the Edgewood and Jefferson game went to double OT, and then the Tigers get to win in overtime over Valley Christian. We're seeing more and more closer games. You look at the scoreboard, there weren't a ton of blowouts last night. Even the games that weren't in overtime ending pretty relatively close. There's a couple of blowouts here and there. I think basketball, you guys, Scotty, you've been watching. Gary, you've been calling games here and there. Basketball, especially on the boys' side, becoming more and more, even throughout the area, you think?
For sure. You're seeing a lot of teams that are really close. I looked at that Valley Christian schedule, and they've lost 3 games. One of them was to Cardinal Mooney, which I think you would expect with the school size. But the other 2 were, I think, 2 and 3-point losses to Columbiana and Lisbon. So the 3 teams at the top of the EOAC, that whole league is pretty close. And like you said, you're seeing it everywhere.
Scotty, what are some games in the scoreboard that popped up to your eyes?
Well, So he just mentioned the EOAC in Lisbon. I think they've been very impressive so far this season. They get another victory last night. Cheney, I know it was a loss. You mentioned it at the top, though. That was, I mean, to give St. V's, who, like you said, Anthony, they always seem to come out with the win when they come here, but to give them that fight, that was really something that I thought was admirable. Obviously, you always want to come away with the victory, but the fight they showed me something. They showed a lot of heart there. But I guess, like you said, all these close games, close, tightly contested kind of rivalry type game, especially when you get into the conference play. It's just about, I I guess for me, it's about these teams staying in it once they once the fourth quarter starts, and you'll see teams kind of, that's when they really, not that they're not going full effort the whole game, but they'll really start locking in on the defensive end. And Champion, what they were able to do as well, getting the overtime victory against Crestview, I think it's going to catapult them to better things moving forward.
Cardinal Mooney, they got their sixth win in a row. We went over that against Youngstown East. 51-46 over the Bears, and we saw East be able to rack up wins and wins and wins. They were a hot team. Mooney sets up a very interesting matchup on Friday in round one of the Holy War. Mooney's going to be coming in hot, 6 wins in a row. They went down to East Liverpool on Friday. They kind of owned the Potter Fieldhouse, which is a hard place to go and dominate in. Not just a hard place to go win in, for sure, but then you talk about a harder place to go and just dominate the whole game in. So Mooney coming in hot, and obviously we know how good Ursuline is. This Holy War on Friday going to be a heck of a matchup.
For sure, definitely, and I always get excited for I remember the first Holy War matchup I went to in football. It was 2012 or 2013, and just the intensity from not only the players but the fan bases as well. It's just great stuff. In basketball, I just feel like it's more of that, because the student sections, and they're right on top of the floor.
Yep.
And it's just, you get those great atmospheres like you see with Salem and the Quaker Crazies, and at the Struthers Fieldhouse. So many great atmospheres around the area.
Another big game for Sway Rodriguez from Campbell. Obviously, we went over the score. They won over Brookfield 53-47. Rodriguez scoring 26 of Campbell's points. He had a huge game in Brookfield. That's a big win for Campbell inside that MVAC. Remember, Campbell trying to repeat as MVAC champions. They split with Newton Falls and LeBray last year, and that was a year where a lot of people didn't think Campbell was going to do much. 2 years ago, they brought back a couple of seniors back into the program. Those seniors had a huge season. Campbell made a deep run, and everyone thought, okay, those kids are graduated last year. They're going to go back down to, just being, just ho-hum Campbell. And they weren't that at all. They went out and they earned a tie with the league with LeBray and Newton Falls. So I think that Red Devils program, proving time and time again, they're here to stay.
For sure, and honestly, I was skeptical after all they lost last season, and I kind of said, after what they did last year, it's kind of one of those things that I'm never gonna doubt Hamill again. Doubt that.
Don't doubt Soup City.
program. Can't doubt them at all. And that's another place where I think their fans really give them a big time advantage.
Oh yeah, that place gets loud, and it's an old gym, so the echo in there and the acoustics, tough place to play when it's rocking. Let's go into the matchups that we're gonna have tonight on Wednesday, January 10th. This is on the YSN scoreboard as well, ysnlive.com/scores. AAC play continues, and it's going to be a battle in the AAC. Boardman goes to Austintown Fitch. Remember, Boardman 1-0 after their win over Canfield last week. Fitch also 1-0 with a win over Canfield. So a battle of two undefeated in the AAC teams going on in Austintown Fitch tonight. Canfield going to Howland. Howland's also undefeated in the conference. Canfield can't afford another loss. It's just that simple. They are going to be a desperate team. They've lost 2 in a row in the league. They need this win bad, and that one's going to be a fun one in Howland. Ashtabula St. John, they're hosting the Horizon Science Academy tonight. The Heralds trying to get a big win. Heartland Christian hosting Maplewood. Senior night in Ursuline as they're hosting Youngstown East and the Steel Valley Conference. Orange JFK welcomes in a very good Rootstown team. East Liverpool hosting East Palestine. Orange going to be playing West Geauga tonight. We have Crestwood going to Grand Valley. Edgewood goes to Conneaut. Jefferson will host Geneva. West Branch goes to Marlington in the EBC. Salem goes to Minerva. Badger goes to Fairport Harding. One boys game tonight. It is going to be a doubleheader in St. John as they are also hosting the Horizon Science Academy and boys basketball as well. So that's the schedule for tonight. Let's get out to the announcers. Who's going to be where? And we have, let's see, Ty Bartell going to be in Austintown Fitch for their game against Boardman. Noah Rick's going to be in Howland for their game against Canfield. Sam Torres will be covering the doubleheader with St. John and the Horizon Science Academy. Larry Scragg going to be in Heartland Christian for their matchup with Maplewood. We have Eric Hughes on the call with Ursuline on senior night against Youngstown East. Dom O'Brien going to be at Warren JFK for their big one against Rootstown. Chris Sigler will be in East Liverpool in the Potter Fieldhouse against East Palestine. Tyler Hartz is going to be at Grand Valley for their matchup with Conneaut. And the school broadcast network will have you covered for West Geauga and Orange. For boys basketball, Sam Torres will be there for Ashtabula St. John's doubleheader. So that's what's going to be on the network tonight. ysnlive.com/live is where you can find those matchups, and it should be a fun one. Scotty, we have some time before we get out of here. We always ask you every Wednesday, what is on your mind? What's on Scotty's brain towards the end of the show today?
Yeah, so we covered the great local action that was going on last night a moment ago in basketball. It's been such an exciting season, and I think this is the time where you're really gonna start seeing the difference between the teams kind of treading water and the teams that have been average to the considerable teams that take that considerable leap and become, the good or really good teams. So that's going to be exciting in itself. But to close the show today, I know you guys are excited for the NFL playoffs. Gary, I know you're a big San Francisco fan. Anthony, of course, you bleed the Kansas City red, the huge Chiefs fan. So I wanted to know for you guys, Gary, your team got the only bye in the NFC in the 1 seed, and Anthony, your Chiefs have to play Miami. I think you mentioned it at the top of the show. That'll be the game exclusively on Peacock. But what are your guys', I guess, biggest concerns going into these playoffs, or or what are some things that you're also gonna really watch out for?
I guess I'll take it first since my team is the one playing this weekend, and Gary's team is good enough to get a bye, and he doesn't even have to worry this weekend. He can watch all the football completely stress free and wait until next week to stress out about the 49ers. The Chiefs are just like, honestly, all year. Gary knows it. Scotty knows it. Anyone that watches football knows it. They've just been hurting themselves, like getting in their own way time and time and time again. And I think the big concern is that going to stop? Like, can you just flip on a switch and say it's playoff time, and then all of a sudden you become the playoff Chiefs that we've all seen the last 6-7 years? I don't know. I don't know if you can just switch that off and all of a sudden stop, fumbling the ball and stop dropping passes and stop, procedure penalties to kill drives. It's been the story of the Chiefs all year. There's not one team that I think beat them where the Chiefs are playing well and they just played better. I think every loss is like the Chiefs just handed the ball away. So can the Chiefs stop doing that? I mean, if they can, I think they'll beat the Dolphins because it's going to be like negative 10 degrees and the Dolphins are hurt. Their defense is depleted. Chiefs lose this game, though, if they can't get out of their own way. Anyone you're playing in the playoffs, if you make those kind of mistakes that we've made all year, anyone's going to beat you in the playoffs if you do that. So biggest concern is this: can the Chiefs stop shooting themselves in the foot? Honestly, because if they don't shoot themselves in the foot, I think they have a good chance. But if they keep doing it, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, for sure. For the 49ers, I mean, we don't have any glaring holes in the team, but we don't have depth either. So if somebody important gets hurt, especially on our offensive line, if Trent Williams goes out, we're not winning anything. And he's the only good offensive lineman that we have. Our best defensive lineman, Eric Armstead, has been out for a month. He might not even be back by the end of the season. And our kicker is a real liability. The kid's made a lot of kicks this year, but he's missed big ones. And he's the kind of kid where if he misses one, it gets in his head. They've lost 3 games. We went 12-5, but we lost 3 games because of him. Browns game, we missed a kick. The game last weekend, we missed a kick. And then against the Vikings, we lost by 4. He missed a field goal early in the game. We were at like the 25-yard line at the end of the game where we could have just kicked another field goal and won that game. Those are my main concerns. We have to stay healthy, and Jake Moody has got to figure it out mentally. We have not won a close game this year. All 12 games we won were comfortable. I think the closest of those 12 wins was 7 points. But we've lost, of the 5, 3 of them were really close losses that we didn't get through. So we can't have him screwed up.
Gary, how do you feel about Brock Purdy? Like in on the first playoff kind of experience. I know he was technically in there last year, but he got hurt. So, yeah, how do you feel about your quarterback kind of trying to step into that level and try to, be playoff experienced and try to take you guys far when he's probably one of the more inexperienced quarterbacks in the playoffs?
Well, he was there last year. He made it to the NFC Championship game, and obviously he got hurt early and he threw a couple passes. He did win his 2 playoff games last year. And I think that he's fine. I think that our offensive line is a liability. And when you've got a team that knows how to rush the passer well, they can disrupt things. But he's also had some bad luck. That Baltimore game, 3 of those passes were either tipped or his arm was hit when he was throwing the ball. Those are just stupid, blind, dumb luck things that happen. I think we're going to be fine. We just really can't get hurt. If we stay healthy, then I don't know that we will really have much to be worried about other than taking care of business ourselves. If we're dropping passes, if we're getting batted balls intercepted, if we get a couple big flags to not go our way, or if our kicker's missing kicks, then we could lose to anybody. But if we're just playing a normal game where we're not making a ton of mistakes, I like our chances against just about anyone.
Scotty, we're not going to let you escape without telling us what you think is the biggest concern for the Browns.
Not to totally steal your thunder, Anthony, but my biggest concern for the Browns, because I gotta say, roster-wise, I'm feeling pretty good, and Joe Flacco's been playing really well. I think their defense, arguably the best in the league, if not one of the best, and it's been that way all season. So I think the defense will keep them in games for sure. My biggest concern, though, is great as Flacco's played, and he has played great, but he's also turned the ball over a lot. He's thrown a lot of interceptions, and the Browns lead the league in turnovers this season. So my biggest concern, they gotta cut down these turnovers. You could get away with it with an elite defense in the regular season. Most of the time, you could get away with it and still win a lot of games, get into the playoffs. But now, every one of these teams you play, they're good teams. And if you turn it over more than once in a game, chances are you're not going to win that game. So I think that for the Browns, they have to find a way to cut down the turnovers, especially considering the fact that they're likely to play all three of these playoff games on the road. And as we all know, it's always tougher to win on the road than it is winning at home. So,
last time you played the Texans, C.J. Stroud didn't play, and he, in my opinion, he's a rookie of the year in the NFL. I don't know if he'll win that, but I think he is absolutely rookie of the year. I don't think there's any doubt about it. Can you guys see anyone else that would win rookie of the year?
No way.
No way, right?
I don't think so. I mean, he's only thrown 5 interceptions all season. That's crazy.
So you guys blew him out, but CJ Stroud didn't play. For me, if I was a Browns fan, I'd be like, man, that score's gonna be posted in the locker room all week, and they're gonna realize, hey, we didn't have our quarterback. It wasn't really us. Let's go prove it. It's in Houston. The Texans didn't really anyone expected them to be anywhere close to here this year. Rebuilding is a bit, I guess, easier than people think. I think the fact that you guys have to go on the road kind of sucks.
Yeah.
This is the first time ever in NFL history that the whole division finished with a winning record. Because when the Bengals won this weekend, they were 9-8. So everyone in the NFC North has a winning record, and that's never happened before in NFL history.
It's also the first time in history that the Browns, Lions, and Bills are all in the playoffs in the same season.
Not a mistake on the lake this year.
No. All the Great Lakes.
You're going to see a lot more of those 4 teams with a winning record, though, because there's 17 games now.
Right.
So there's an extra game
the
in
caveat
there. That's the tiebreaker. That's kind of there's got to be an asterisk on that this year, because when you get 17 games, you get an extra game to try to be above 500, where they didn't have that in the past.
Yeah, there are a couple of divisions that were close this year, but no one else has an all winning record division so far. In the 3 years they've had 17 games.
Yeah.
So we'll see how long that record holds with 17 games. We'll pause that conversation, come back in 20 years. We'll get together and see if that number still stands. Before we go, one thing I want to bring up that blew my mind. Jameis Winston, want to talk about it, goes to the line in victory formation. The coach, now we don't know actually what happened, but the coach says he might be covering his butt, but the coach says he told him, knee the ball. That's what we're doing. And then Jameis Winston obviously says, as a team, we collectively decided we're not going to do that. They give that running back the touchdown. It broke a record or something, right? There was significance to that touchdown for that running back that scored, right? So that's the whole thing. They were like, hey, we're going to do this for our teammate. All the people that are on Jameis Winston's corner are like, look at how the team reacted. Look at how team won, that he was a leader for his team. The coach lost the locker room. That's his fault. And then there are all obviously people on the other side that says, you don't care what you think about your coach. If he tells you to do one thing and you go out there and go rogue, that says a lot about your character. What are your guys' thoughts on what happened with the Saints and Jameis Winston and obviously going completely rogue and not, listening to his coach that says knee the ball, getting in victory formation, running the ball in for a touchdown? What were some of your quick thoughts before we get out of here?
What was there an actual reason why they had him score? Because he hadn't scored a touchdown all year. Did he get some kind of a personal bonus for that?
I think there was some significance in him scoring. I don't know what it exactly was. I wasn't in tune to the whole storyline of that, but I think there was something about him scoring that was either a bonus or something. Like he needed that score because he had a lot last year.
It's a pretty Yeah, he had 17 last year, and he led the league. He didn't have any this year up to that point. I mean, you got to listen to what your coach says. It's week 18. It's not going to have any bearing on this season. They didn't go to the playoffs. Arthur Smith got fired for the Falcons. In the grand scheme of things, it's not going to change anything. I mean, if Dennis Adams comes back, I mean, I don't know. There has to be some kind of precedent set by him to say, hey, you can't do that. It's a classless thing to do. And if you did that in the middle of the season, that's all they'd be talking about this week.
Right. Well, I think like Jameis Winston's probably not going to be in New Orleans next year. If I had, probably
Right.
not.
Yeah.
Whether everyone agrees with it or not, there's probably not going to be a lot of love for him in that coaching staff if they come back next year or that
Right.
organization. Strati, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it is a slap in the face to the coach. I think, I mean, on one hand, like, I think, it is the NFL, the best of the best. So, as far as, like, the whole, like, running up the score and this and that, like, in the NFL, I just feel like differently about things like that. Yeah, but even in high school, like, I've always just thought of it from the mentality like, if I was a high school athlete and I was getting my butt kicked, if I would want to stop from getting embarrassed, I'm doing everything I can in my power to stop them. So, that whole thing, it's like at some point, um, you have to, I think you do have to be able to say, you know what, enough is enough. Like, we're gonna, put a stop to this. But at the same time, like, the head coach, you gotta listen to your head coach. I mean, that's just, to me, it's just
Do you
kind
though in the NFL when like a lot of these guys are getting probably paid more than the head coach, and it's like it's the NFL. The coach is kind of almost a figurehead sometimes in the NFL. Like this isn't like a college kid doing it or a high school kid doing it, where you feel like the coach has a little bit more authority and precedence and statute. Like in pro sports, like how many times do NBA players listen to their coach?
Yeah.
That's true.
You just wonder. I would have a lot less problem with it if they didn't line up in victory formation to do it. That's my grub. You lined up in victory formation, and then you did it. Like that's one of the ones that I'm like, ugh. Because the Falcons didn't even have a chance to try and defend it because everyone's like, oh, it's victory formation. It's good. We're all good.
Right.
And people obviously bring up Dan Marino with the fake knee and all the stuff that he was able to do. And I don't know.
If the game had any meaning, at all moving forward, it would probably be a bigger deal. But because it doesn't, it's the last game of the season for either team. I guess the Saints at the time didn't know that they were out of it because the Buccaneers won. But I just don't think it's going to mean that much. And I can't see them bringing Dennis Allen back. He did have a winning record, but they're not going to the Super Bowl with that team.
We'll see. Great episode today, guys. Went a little bit in overtime, but you know what? So did some of our basketball games last night, so it's all good. We will see everybody tomorrow on Running Point 1 to 2. We'll see Scotty and Gary next week on Wednesday.